afternoon, everyone. Absolutely lovely to be here. I'm thrilled that we are able to once again host the NASSCOM International SME Conclave and in its virtual avatar. So, thank you so much for joining us. Uh, Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart. This is about what does it take to grow or to thrive uh, in the what we call the next normal. um, Everyone's talking about the next normal and what it means. And before we get into what it means for SMEs and how do you grow your business in the next normal or the future, let's take a look at what the last few months has really meant. For all those who haven't seen it, NASSCOM had recently come out with a very extensive study of the SME ecosystem with focused on cloud adoption, because in the last few months, cloud has pretty much emerged as the life savior for companies, with businesses moving more and more to the clouds as we saw a rapid decrease in physical transactions and physical business. So we had done a very extensive study of the SME ecosystem. And what we found that yes, there was around a 10 to 40% short-term revenue loss across several sectors which were more physical: automotive, healthcare, tourism, manufacturing, retail, etc. But at the same time, we also found an increase of 10 to 20% short term revenue in sectors that could adapt very significantly to the digital world: e learning, e health, e entertainment, etc. etc. What was critical, and there's a lot of data that has gone into the research, there's a lot of details. I would strongly recommend you guys to check it out. What was really important to see is the success was, you know went to those companies who were able to adapt very fast. Agility, Hanuman talked about agility being a key criteria for SMEs. It became a key success imperative for SMEs in the pandemic. The companies that were able to adapt and shift very fast, they were absolutely able to come out of this, or if we feel they'll be able to come out of this even stronger than before. I think what the pandemic has done for big companies, for small companies, even for governments to a very large extent, is it's enabled us hit the pause button for the way we worked, for the way we conducted business. And it's giving us the opportunity to figure out, before we start again, what kind of changes do we need to make. We all talk about this next normal, the future, but the future gets created based on our actions. The future gets created based on the actions you and I take today. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity for companies to take the learnings of the last few months or the last year and see, how do they want to shape the future for their businesses? How do they want to ensure they come out of this stronger and they're able to handle any crisis that comes their way? So, the opportunity to reinvent, to me, is the biggest silver lining that the pandemic has given us. And as we do that, as CEOs, as founders, as you think through this extremely important question of how do you want the future to be for your business, and therefore how do you have to shape up in order to be successful in such a future, I think it's important for us to keep a few things in mind, because these are out of our control. We have no control on a few of these things, and they will impact our lives. One, whatever shape and form the future is in, or the next normal is in, it is going to be VUCA plus plus. I call it VUCA on steroids, because we've always talked about a world that is volatile. I think what the pandemic has shown us is we only saw a trailer of what there was really about to come. We are now getting into the real picture. And I think the one thing that most leaders have realized is that volatility will not just stay, but we'll be, we're going to be faced with some extreme volatility and extreme crisis going forward, with the way the global economy has tanked. So this is going to stay for the next few years. The world is going to be hyper digital. The one thing COVID has done is significantly accelerated the pace of digital transformation. We are going to see a world that is largely hyper digital, and the pace of digital accelerate transformation is just going to go up. And last but not the least, even with the vaccine, everyone talks about the vaccine. The vaccine is not the magic. The vaccination plan is the magic. Countries need to ensure, the world needs to ensure that we are going to have 7 billion plus people vaccinated before everyone can really feel safe. And that's going to take a while. That's not going to happen immediately. So, at least for the next few years, the world is either going to be largely contactless or we are going to have less contact. I mean, we'll figure out how it goes, but definitely I don't see businesses going back to the way that they used to work. It's just not going to make sense, and it's too big a risk to take. So when you keep all this in mind and you think about, um, therefore, what should your playbook for the future look like in order to ensure that you can emerge stronger, you're more successful in the future? I mean, the first thing to realize is whatever has made you successful till now, most of it unfortunately may not work in the future. Some of it definitely will, but most of it will require a rewiring or um, sometimes even disruption in order for you to embrace the new opportunities that the future is going to provide. And I want to take the next few minutes to talk about what are some of these core differentiators that SMEs need to build in order to not just succeed in the future, but in order to thrive in the future, in order to become a leader in the future. I mean, the first thing I want to talk about is trust. Trust is something we've talked about for ages. We've always talked about trust. We've said how important trust is. But when you go into a world that is going to be hyper digital, largely contactless, trust is going to become tremendously important because every decision is going to be based on trust. Whether your customer works with you or not is going to be dependent on whether your customer trusts you enough or not to ensure that you're investing in this kind of a world in keeping your employees safe. Whether they trust you to invest in ensuring you're building capabilities within your employees, whether they trust you to ensure invest in the right cybersecurity uh, measures to ensure that their business continuity does not get disrupted. Customers are going to choose who they work with and who they don't work with based on one fundamental principle, and that is who do they trust more. And I think this is going to be so important for SMEs to keep in mind. I mean, the four elements of trust are, there's nothing new to it. It's well known: competence, reliability, honesty, empathy. And I think it's very, very important, especially in a crisis, for leaders and for companies not just to talk about trust and but to show, to act, and show that you are trustworthy. In fact, every conversation I have with the CEO, I always start with this question: how trustworthy do you really think you are to your customers, to your employees? Your employees will want to come back to work for you in the COVID situation only if they believe that you can be trusted to take the right actions to keep them safe. So, the importance of trust in the COVID world cannot be discounted or cannot be overlooked. And I think this is fundamentally important to your success and how you build your future. So do spend a little time thinking through it. The second core differentiator that's shaping for SMEs is the ability to identify opportunities with strong tailwind. You saw this in the first slide I showed you. The SMEs that were able to identify opportunities in the digital space and were able to pivot businesses using core capabilities of technology, were able to pivot their businesses to find solution in these spaces, are not just surviving, but are actually they're going to show growth by end of year. So I think this is going to be extremely important. And one of the opportunities in India with the strongest tailwind is cloud, the movement to cloud. I've talked about the importance of cloud. I think in a hyper digital world, cloud is going to be the foundation. And there is tremendous opportunity when it comes to the India cloud market. It's growing at 30% CAGR till around 2025. We expect it in next year to be somewhere in the 221 billion range, which is and it's a mix of SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, etc. But the opportunities for growth in this segment is huge. SMEs today contribute around 28% of India's cloud market. I think if SMEs can get their act together, this is a segment they can go after and increase their share tremendously, because once again, this is a segment where customers want hand holding. They want to work with people they can completely trust, uh, you know, uh, to keep their business, their data, etc. safe. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for you to look into this. As I said before, for those of you who have not seen the NASSCOM report, please do go through it, because we've called out in extensive details what a company can do in order to move up the cloud value chain. I'm not going to talk about it here, but do go through the report, and it's a tremendous opportunity. It's an opportunity with tremendous tailwind that is available to you. The third differentiator is talent. I know this morning you've had a lot of good sessions where you've talked about talent, but talent basically is changing the rules of competition. I will work with you as a customer only if I believe that you are investing in the right talent that I need in order to keep my business running. And I would advise all the SME founders, CEOs, to sort of think of talent in four different aspects. The first one, investment in talent is not a cost. Investment in talent is a forward looking investment you're making, without which you cannot be successful. So for everyone who starts looking at the cost of in skilling and saying I can't afford it now because I'm in a cost cutting mode, that's the worst, that's the biggest mistake you are making. This is the time when you have to invest in the right talent development, because this is the time your competition may be cutting costs and cutting costs on skilling, and you can increase significantly your competitive advantage by increasing this. Um, we are in the age of bilinguals. We need people who are not just technically sound, but who are technically sound and are also have professional skills, communication, design thinking, project management, creativity. So invest in the right skills. It's very, very important, again, from a competitive differentiator perspective. Reimagine hiring. Your old way of hiring not necessarily is going to be effective anymore. Remote working is completely changing the hiring landscape. From the emergence of gig economy to working from home, working from anywhere, we can start looking at very non-traditional channels for hiring talent. And as you're building your talent strategy, think diversity from the beginning. Build it into the design of your strategy, because that is what will give you the biggest strength or competitive advantage, as a lot of big customers today prefer partners who have a focus on diversity and who have a large diverse workforce. So this is becoming more and more a very strong preference for companies as they're looking at technology partners. And last but not the least, think about how do you ease your customers' talent challenges. This is again a value that you can provide, that your customer will not only want but will be willing to pay for. Talent is in such significant shortage today. If you can do anything to help your customer ease some of their talent challenges, I think you have a winning strategy in hand. The fourth one I want to talk about is digital transformation, and how do you reimagine? Today digital transformation is every CEO priority. It doesn't matter if it's a manufacturing CEO, a retail CEO, a entertainment CEO, sports CEO, but everyone is talking about digital transformation. And it's not just digital transformation focused on a particular product or a particular process in the past, but they are looking at digital transformation that can completely cut across the entire business model. And the key areas of focus is customer experience, operations, employee experience. What can you do? And there's a fantastic research that I have put the link here to that MIT has done to show what are the new elements of digital transformation that CEOs are looking at. And as you build your platform, I'm not even saying products or services because today it's about end to end platforms. As you build your platforms, how do you enable or meet the customer's need with respect to digital transformation? I think this is something worth thinking about, especially as you're thinking about your talent strategy, because this again goes back to what kind of skills do you have. And last but not the least, it's about agility, it's about resilience. Companies, a lot of you may be already working on these strategies, maybe already building your core differentiators around these building blocks. But the end of the day, the company that does it faster and does it with a much higher impact is the one that's going to win. I just want to leave you with this thought that the role of technology in your customer's mind has changed forever. The pandemic has completely uh, reimagined or changed the narrative that we used to use for technology. Today, when your customers are thinking about technology, they're thinking of technology as a key competitive differentiator. They're thinking of technology as a strong accelerator for their business processes. Governments are thinking of technology as one of the most powerful equalizers that they can deploy. And last but not the least, everyone sees it as a great disruptor. And the question that every company is asking itself is, can I use technology right today to get to disrupt myself and disrupt competition, or do I wait till somebody disrupts me? And I think when you are talking to customers about how you partner with them, these are the discussions you need to be having today. It's no more about one particular product or one particular service that you're going to build. I want to leave you with why we care so much about the SME segment at NASSCOM. Hanuman talked a bit about it. For me, I'm very clear that India's economy cannot succeed without strong participation of the SME segment. It's very clear. And especially as we think about the recovery roadmap that we have to now build for the economy to get back to where it was in the next few years, I think the participation of SMEs and the participation of tech SMEs is going to be absolutely critical. We cannot, whether you're talking about GDP share, whether you're talking about export growth, whether you're talking about job creation, none of these pillars can be achieved without the participation of SMEs. So we need to ensure that we have a very healthy, sustainable, and growing SME segment in India. And that's the commitment that NASSCOM has made, because we strongly believe that if we want to impact India, if we want to achieve this dream that we have set for ourselves, that when the world thinks digital, the world will think India, we absolutely cannot do it without the strong participation of India's SME segment. So, with that, I don't know if I have time for questions. I think I've just about hit the time on my session. But thank you so much, and I wish you a fantastic conference.